Titiks is the topic. What is this idea? What is this concept of Titiksha? All along we have seen life equals experiences. We have seen that. And every experience consists of three factors: the sense organs, the sense objects, and the actual contact. So there is a sense organ and there is a sense object, and they should come in contact. When these three come in contact, there rises an experience. Up to this point we have covered, we have seen this any number of times. This is the basic formula. Life equals experiences, and experiences consist of three factors: the sense objects, the sense organs, the sense objects, and then the actual interaction between them, and then the actual contact between them. The sense organs, when they contact the sense objects, which is an experience, that experience leaves something behind in the mind. This is the second point. When the sense organs contact a sense object, something is left behind in the mind. That which is left behind in the mind because of the interaction of the sense organ and the sense object is called sukham or dukkham, pleasure or pain. This is the second point that we have to understand in the flow of life. The first one is organ contacting the object. Now the sense organ contacting the sense object, experience is over. Actually it doesn't get over like that. If it gets over like that, there's no problem at all. But it doesn't get over like that. This contact of sense organ and sense object leaves something behind in the mind. What is it that leaves behind in the mind? In the form of sukham and dukkham. Sukham and dukkham means pleasure and pain. So the experiences leaves something behind, pleasure and pain. This is the flow of life. Because the contact is leaving pleasure and pain in the mind, and the mind has an inherent nature. What is the inherent nature of the mind? The mind wants something. What is it that the mind wants? More pleasure, less pain. No. Only pleasure, no pain. It's not more pleasure, less pain. Supposing if I say half an hour in a day you will be poked, will you be okay? Once a year for half a day you will be poked, will you be okay? Therefore, the mind wants only pleasure and no pain. This is where the starting point of understanding where Titiksha comes in. I will connect. Are you okay till now? Now, the nature of the mind is such that it wants only sukham, pleasure, and no dukkha. Where comes the contradiction? Where comes the difficulty is here. The sense experiences are variable. The mind wanting sukham and dukkham is invariable. Again I repeat. Talking sensibly, no? Okay. Huh? I think from where are you getting all these things now? I'm getting confused now. Where am I getting all this now? The sense experiences are variables. The mind is invariable. What is the sense experiences are variable? Heat and cold is invariable, are variables. Again I repeat, heat and cold are variable. In the winter, heat is pleasant. In the summer, cold is pleasant. So it means heat and cold are variable. But at any given point of time, sukham and dukkham is invariable. Pleasure and pain is always invariable, meaning always I want to be in sukham. At any point of time, I don't want dukkham. The sense experiences of heat and cold. I'm just taking heat and cold as an example of sense experience. That experience of heat and cold is not something is hot always. It's not something is cold always. That which is when it is cold, what gives you pleasure? When it is cold outside, what gives you pleasure? Heat gives you pleasure. When it is heat outside, what gives you pleasure? Cold. So per se, does heat and cold have pleasure or pain? Per se, does heat and cold have pleasure or pain? No, heat and cold exist, but they don't have the capacity to give you pleasure or pain. This is how we start. The basic. This is how the analysis starts. So they exist, and they exist as a variable. They don't exist as an invariable. They exist as a variable. Because it exists as a variable means it keeps fluctuating. It keeps changing. But then, in relation to the mind, wanting pleasure, wanting sukham and dukkham is invariable. Are we all okay till now? Yeah. Yes, sir. You had something, sir?
Yeah. So when you talk about heat and cold, but also pain and pleasure, don't they arise together? So you can only have pleasure when you have pain. Let's say as a counter, like a wave, you have the top and the bottom.
Yeah, that is in relation to the sense experiences. But the mind will not accept the wave. For the mind, the sine wave, it doesn't want. It wants only one thing always. What? Under all circumstances, it has to be peace, happiness, pleasure, contentment. Under all circumstances, no pain, sorrow, suffering. This is the very fundamental distinction upon which the entire knowledge is built. Both don't go together. The sense experiences are variable. What the mind wants it is invariable. That's why we spend a lot of time studying this differences first. Because once there is a clarity on this difference, then we built the formula around it. As we go on explain, as we go on to the deeper explanation, you will see how both don't come together. They are always distinct and different. Is it okay?
Yeah.
It is comfortable and therefore welcome at some point of time. It is uncomfortable, therefore rejected at another point of time. Heat and cold. Heat is welcome at some point of time because it gives pleasantness. The same heat is not wanted at some point of time because it gives unpleasantness. Therefore, the heat and cold per se are variable. What the mind wanting it is invariable. The whole knowledge is built on these fundamental principles. Sukham is always welcome. Dukkham is never welcomed. Isn't it? Sukham is always welcomed. Dukkham is never wanted. Where comes the problem now? Where comes the problem? The problem starts here. The mind that is seeking an invariable necessarily go behind that which is variable. What does the mind want? It is wanting something invariable. And without helplessly, where does the mind seek it? Wants it in the variable. Therefore, that which gives pleasure at one point of time starts giving pain at another point in time. Why do we say that? How is it explained? Now, the presence of sense objects and the sense organs do not give sukham and dukkham. They interact. Again I repeat. The presence of sense organs and the presence of sense objects, their presence and their interaction by themselves do not cause sukham and dukkham, because the senses, the skin is designed to experience heat and cold, the tongue is designed to experience, the eye is designed to experience, the ears is designed to experience, but they are not designed for sukham and dukkha. But where the mind makes the mistake is it uses this for sukham and dukkha. When it start assuming, when it start believing sukham and dukkham can come through that, then it becomes a problem. From here starts from now on we will be building our arguments in support of Titiks. Each and every argument is we are building up the support for Titiks.
I just want to understand, because there's a jump here. So because the mind only wants pleasure, which is an invariable, it's a constant state, it just wants pleasure the whole time.
Yes.
It is trying to seek that in the sense experiences.
Yes.
When the objects and the organs meet.
Yes.
And therefore, because they are not invariable, they are variable, the mind still experiences ups and downs.
So the mind experiencing ups and downs is because of the wrong area of seeking.
Yeah.
It's the wrong area of seeking. What is the wrong area of seeking? Upanishad gives an example. The lady was searching for the needle in the road.
Outside.
The old lady outside the house. So the person, what are you searching for? She said, I'm searching for my needle on the roadside. So the person asked, is this where you lost it? This is where light is. I can search only where there is light. No. Where did I lose is not the question. Where can you search for it? Only where there is light. There is no light inside the house. There is light here. Therefore, I am searching here. You lost it elsewhere, but searching it elsewhere. That's the knowledge. It's lost elsewhere, but search happens elsewhere. Now, to make this fundamental point clear is the challenge. It is lost here somewhere and search is happening somewhere. How to explain this is the challenge of the knowledge. And they have done a beautiful job explaining it to us for us. They have done a fantastic job. They said it very well. How the interactions by themselves do not cause pleasure and pain. The mind interprets it as pleasure and pain. It is the mind interpretation of it as pleasure and pain. Because the ears are designed to register fluctuating sounds. The tongue is designed to experience various tastes. Nowadays there are only two tastes, isn't it? Salt and sugar, that's all. Other than that, the tongue doesn't know any other taste. Bitter is not there. All that other taste is gone completely except a salt but then the tongue is designed to register the Now, that which is designed to register and experience the variables, by default, variable means fluctuating. So all the sensory experiences will be fluctuating by nature. The law. What is the law now? You can never complain over a fact. You can never attempt to change a fact. Again, there is the law. What is the law? You can never complain about a fact. You can never change a fact. Then what can be done? There is only one thing you can do. There is only one thing you can do. What? You can change your attitude towards it. That attitudinal change you can bring. That attitudinal change is what we call as knowledge and understanding. So that cannot be changed. That's how it is. That's how it is designed. Can you change it? No, you cannot change that. Therefore, what? You can change your attitude towards it. Okay. Then comes another angle to the same knowledge. I'm starting a new angle now. Are we okay till now? Attitudinal change alone is the solution, because that's how it is going to be. Nothing can be done there. For you to go back and study again, make a note of the verse number 14, chapter 2. Verse number 14, chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. Matrar sparshast gaunteya sitoshna sukhadukkadaha agamapayino nityaha tam titikshasva bharata. Beautiful verse. These are all formula verses. You know, the chapter 2 is full of formulas. Each and every verse has one formula in it. This verse number 14 is one formula. In fact, he's just started, verse number 11 only, he started teaching the philosophy. Just as he's warming up itself, he gives a very beautiful discipline to practice. What? Titiksha. Tam titikshasva bharata. O Arjuna. Bharata means Arjuna. O Arjuna, practice Titiksha. And Titiksha in English, if you translate it, it has to be explained as forbearance. I think that's what we also put, isn't it? What to put for these qualities, like Shraddha, Titiksha, Dharma. We are still struggling to find an appropriate word, and we are not able to arrive at an appropriate word which can convey the shades of meaning that these words actually tries to convey. Are you okay till now?
Mm-hmm.
You can move this side, ma. You can move this side. You can also move this side.
Yeah, I'm aware.
You are aware. Okay. Good Titiksha you should practice. The first thing. We went through one angle. Now we are starting another angle. What is the nature of the world? Just as we say life equals experiences, there is another formula for life. Life equals situations. Just as we say life equal experiences, that's not the only formula for life. Another formula is there for life. Life equals situations. Life doesn't equal problems. Life equals situations. When you are able to handle a situation, you say life is better. When you are not able to handle a situation, it turns into a problem. Now, what is the definition of a problem now? From this, you derive the definition of a problem. What is the definition of a problem? Problem is a situation that you do not know how to handle. Supposing if you have had the knowledge of how to handle it, will you call it as a problem or a situation? So, life equals situations. There are so many people who come and ask me for some suggestions, advice, and we keep giving suggestions. So, Sir, I'm in a problem. I say, call me 3 days later. Sir, I have told you many times, tell I am in a situation. Say I am in a situation. Say I am in a situation. I do not know how to handle a. So, what is the definition of a problem? A situation that you don't know how to handle turns into a problem. Now, is life giving you a problem, or you not knowing how to handle it has turned it into a problem? What has turned it into a problem?
You not being able
You not knowing how to handle has turned the situation into a problem. Therefore, first thing, life equals experiences. One formula you keep. Another formula, life equals situations. And what is the nature of the situation? The world. Take it or leave it, this is the law. Situations are unpredictable, uncontrollable, unsustainable. Situations are unpredictable, situations are uncontrollable, situations are unsustainable. This is the nature of the world that gives you situations. So situations means world. World means, what is the nature of the world? Number one, it is unpredictable. Unpredictable means what? We do not know what the next moment is. Not knowing the next moment is so scary. That's why we all want to go on knowing what's going to happen. Tell me what will happen. Tell me what will happen. Tell me what will happen. Vedanta says even God doesn't know what's going to happen. How can we know? Why? Because the next moment is unpredictable. The second thing about world is what? It is, even if you can predict it, to a very large extent, it is uncontrollable. Even if you can control it, the control is not sustainable. Very pessimistic view of life, isn't it? You can't life more pessimistic than this. We want to study and make life more optimistic, and this knowledge is making it so pessimistic. So, what is life? Unpredictable, uncontrollable, unsustainable. So the situations that you will always face will be a combination of these factors. Therefore, anything that is unpredictable, uncontrollable, unsustainable, does it have the capacity to produce sukham, or does it have the capacity to produce dukkham? What it can produce? Sukham or dukkham? Dukkham only it will produce. Pain only it will produce. Because all this will result in pain. Why? Because mind is wanting the mind is wanting the invariable, and by nature it is variable. So the mind is wanting it invariable, and the nature of it is variable. Therefore, what is ignorance? What is ignorance? Trying to make the variable invariable is ignorance. Ignorance is a very refined way. Bhajagovindam and other Krishna, the Upanishads and all calls it as foolishness. They call it as foolishness. Children, Krishna will say children, fools, PhD in foolery. So many words they use to explain this. What is it? Making an attempt to convert the variable into invariable. The first attempt, invariable into variable. My very first visit to Dubai, Middle East, I was surprised. I said, wow, why do you all use such a thick blanket? Well, they use so thick a blanket. Why? Because it is so 45 degrees outside. We have invented air conditioners and made the variable and made the variable invariable now. What a great achievement. What a great technology. What a great growth. Here comes the law. The solution that you bring in to sort a problem itself becomes another problem. You have a problem and you bring a solution to the problem. The solution that you bring itself turns into another problem. So over a period of time, all our entertainment is what? All our entertainment is replacing one problem with another problem. Are you okay till now? This is from another angle. Now, the mind, knowing the variable nature of the world, the mind wants to use all its intelligence, all the creative power, all the exploratory nature. It wants to use all this to do what? Make it invariable. And if anybody gives you the guarantee that it can be made invariable, that is a success. Correct? But then it doesn't stop there. Life doesn't give full stop at all, so it's a constant comma. It just comma. When it's full stop, God only. What happens? That which you, there is a problem, and you bring a solution to the problem, and the solution that you bring itself turns into another problem. There is a very beautiful story about this character, Mullah Nasruddin. Have you heard of Mullah Nasruddin? Have you not heard of Mullah Nasruddin? You can't miss him. Yeah, Sufi. Wonderful. Wonderful man. Jesus Christ taught through simple parables. Vedas teaches through complex logic and mathematics and analysis, etc. Mullah Nasruddin teaches through simple jokes. He's a one, every master is so, Buddha taught through different kind of a logic. Oh my God, the logic of Buddha is much more different. Vedas has now, Mullah Nasruddin doesn't go into complicated logic. Just as Jesus Christ will never go into a complicated elaboration and all. So he will teach through simple stories and parables. Mullah Nasruddin teaches through jokes. One day, Mullah Nasruddin woke up in the middle of the night. He woke up in the middle of the night. He saw the whole family, the wife, the 7 kids, all fast asleep. He woke them up, middle of the night. He woke everybody up and he asked, "Do you all know what brought you here?" He asked them, "Do you all know what brought you here? How did you all come into existence? Do you know that?" All of them said, "Don't irritate us in the middle of the night. We are sleeping." All of them went back to sleep. The youngest girl, she woke up, now she couldn't go back to sleep. Now she went and asked the father, "What brought us here?" "All of you are all here because of a rat," he said. Rat. Everybody, all of us are here because of a rat. The girl said, "What do you mean, rat?" I said, "Wait, I'll tell you how the story happened, how it unfolded. Long back in this house, I had a problem with a rat. I went to the wise man of the town and asked, what is the solution? What is the solution to the rat? What is the solution to the rat? Cat. Cat. So cat is the solution to the rat. Perfect? Now the cat has become a problem. Now you can't go to the same person who said cat and ask what to do, because he said, no, this is not my expertise, he will say. Then you have to go to another consultant now. Why cat became a problem? Because the cat needs milk to be alive, and if the milk has to be given to the cat so that the cat can be alive and it can take care of the rat. He went to another person. I said, what to do for because the cat needs milk. What is the solution for that? Cow. Correct. Cow. Beautiful story it is, I tell you. Cow. Get a cow, the cow will give milk and feed the milk to the cat, and the cat will take care of the rat. Now, how many things he has to deal with? Rat, don't forget, rat is still there. The rat, the cat, the cow. Now, how the cow will yield milk?
Yes, eat grass.
Grass. Now, where to go for that now? So, another person said, oh, buy a piece of land and grow grass so that the cow can eat the grass and the grass will make the cow yield milk, and you give the milk to the cat and the cat will take care of the rat. Logic is perfectly correct, but miseries are getting piled up. Why? From rat to the cat to the cow to the land. Now he suddenly realized he has too many things to handle which he can't do by himself. He need a team. He need a team to deal with, because one person can't do so much. So he brought in a woman to help. Eventually fell in love with that woman, produced 7 children, and all of them are now. Now what are there now? Go back. 7 children, the wife, the land, the cow, the cat,
and cats.
and rat.
Rats.
Nothing has changed. Nasuddin said, if only I had been comfortable with the if only I had practiced Titiksha with the rat, none of this would have come into existence. Always remember the story. You bring in a solution and the solution itself turns into another problem, isn't it? See, human beings were dying of hunger and starvation because the rice and wheat to grow takes 6 months. Rice and wheat takes that much time to grow. Now they said, no, we can't wait for so long and all, it gets too complicated. Now make it to 45 days. Maybe now we will find the rice, as soon as you plant it will convert it into rice, I don't know. Now, how to make it grow faster? How to do it? When everything was organic, we discovered fertilizers and made everything inorganic, and now
We have to make back organic.
go back to organic. Able to follow? To carry things from one place to the other was so difficult, because how will you carry things, isn't it? So plastics was invented as a solution to a problem with all genuine intention. Carefully follow. With all genuine intention, fertilizers was invented as a solution to a problem. With all genuine intention, plastics was invented as a solution to a problem. They didn't have intention of spoiling the environment. They didn't have intention of killing anybody. It was all done with the genuine. But then, what happens? What you bring in as a solution itself turns into another problem. Therefore, Einstein's in the book Citations, Tributes and Quotes, you find the quote by Einstein. The intelligence that created the problem cannot be used to solve it. Because it knows how to create, which looks like a solution, but eventually turns into a problem. Therefore, what happens? Why all this attempt is being made? All this attempt is being made by the mind using its creativity, exploratory nature, intelligence, etc. All are directed in one angle. What is that angle? By nature, it is variable, and I should make it invariable. By nature, it is variable, I should make it invariable. All human attempts are bound to fail because of the law. What is the law? The temporary can never be made permanent. We all can go on trying, but the law remains the same. The temporary can never be made permanent. Are you okay till now? Then what to do with the temporary? Now we are stuck with the temporary now. We have understood that we are stuck with the variable, we are stuck with the temporary. What do we do now? Titiksha. Practice, practice titiksha. Now, I have not yet defined titiksha. I am going to define it. Why this quality of patience or forbearance, etc., itself is a very important primary preliminary step for spiritual growth. The primary preliminary step for spiritual growth is this titiksha. And today the human being takes pride in saying, oh, I am very impatient. And they don't feel bad at all by saying they are impatient. They feel it's such a noble, they think it's a noble virtue, just as they think, just as people say, oh, I am a perfectionist, sir. Very good. Very good. What? Oh, I am a go-getter. I can't be this patience things and all. I can't wait. I'm okay. Good. What can you say? You can only practice titiksha with them now. What can you do? Are you able to follow? Why? Because of a very fundamental fallacy in thinking. What is the fundamental fallacy in thinking? Somehow the human being believes that the temporary can be made permanent. Understanding the temporary as temporary is knowledge. When you understand the temporary as temporary, that is knowledge. And when you are experiencing it, some dukkham will come. And when that pain comes, you are not sad, you are not depressed, you are not worried, you are not anxious, you just accept it, and in spite of the pain, continue to do what you ought to do. So what is titiksha now? This is the definition of titiksha. What is the definition of titiksha? In spite of the painful situation, in spite of the difficulty, you continue to do what you ought to do. Otherwise, the sorrow is so heavy that it takes me away from doing what I ought to do. Knowledge should not do that. But the way in which we live life is what? The moment an unfavorable situation comes, first thing I stop is what? First thing the mind stops is what? What it ought to do, it will stop. That's why in psychology, the sign of depression is not bathing. You know that?
It's not what?
You know that?
No.
They will not bathe.
Sorry, that's not funny.
No, it is like that. So interesting study there. Does anybody know that here? Or you didn't know? Does anybody know that?
Sorry, I didn't get that last word.
No,
People get into, they will not shower. Isn't it? Do you know that? They will not do that. You go to anybody in depression, the first thing the doctor will ask is, are they showering every day? They will not. 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, they will just sit in one corner stubbornly and not move at all. That is where the problem of trying to make the impermanent permanent. You try to make the impermanent permanent, and then your efforts will go in vain. It creates such a sad state in you that you get into freeze. You freeze. Freezing means what? The normal things that you ought to do, you will not do. So from this we derive the understanding. What is understanding? When you try to make the variable invariable, it's not possible. And when it is not possible, you feel so sad. And when you feel so sad, the mind just overpowers the personality so much that it will not do what it It will not do what it ought to do. Various examples I can give from real life situations. To tell the people, supposing if there is death in the family, the closest person has passed away, right? I said, next morning, wake up at 5 o'clock crying. Crying, make the coffee. Crying, drink the coffee. But none of this should cry. But don't stop any of these things. That is called practicing titiksha. Are you able to follow?
Mm-hmm.
You wake up crying, you light the stove crying, you boil the water crying, you make the coffee crying, and you drink the coffee crying, and then finish the coffee, go to the next thing. But let crying continue. Because of you crying, ensure that what you ought to do should not stop. That practice is called titiksha. One of the fundamental preparatory practices for spiritual growth. Therefore, Krishna, as a very first introduction to the practice of spirituality, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse number 14, practice titiksha.
Chapter 14.
Chapter 2,
14.
verse number 14, Bhagavad Gita. Beautiful verse. He says, Agamapayinaha Anityaha. Two qualifications he gives. Agamapayinaha means they come and go. Even when they are with you, they are temporary. Temporary, is it a good news or a bad news? Is everything in the world is temporary? Is it a good news or a bad news? Is it a good news or a bad news? When you are faced with bad situations, it is temporary. Even this shall pass away is a good news.
Yeah.
Even this shall pass away is a good news when you are experiencing dukkham, when you are experiencing sukham. Impermanence is not a good news, it's a bad news, no? Krishna says, it's not good news, bad news and all. This is the reality. And courage is required to accept a fact as a fact. Courage is required to accept a fact as a fact. What is the fact? Life is agamapayinaha anityaha. Agamapayinaha means they come and go. They come and go. At any given point of time, one will be there. Even as they are there with you, they are not. Because of the very fact that they are coming and going itself means they are temporary. First thing about titiksha is this. Are you okay with the definition of titiksha? What is the definition of titiksha? In spite of the pain, continue to do what you ought to do is what is called as titiksha. When everything is favorable and good, nobody will want to talk about impermanency of life, isn't it? Everybody will want to understand the impermanency of life when in joyful situation or a sorrowful situation. In a sorrowful situation only, we want the discussion about impermanence itself come. What the Vedas gives various examples for that. When there is a death in the family, when the closest one has passed away, suddenly everything in life looks so hollow, so meaningless, nothing. For a few days, 10th day, 15th day, in that few days, they give up everything, isn't it? They say it's not worth it, Nothing is fun. It's not meaning. All that they give up in that 10 days, they will want it back on the 11th day. Are you able to follow? They will want it back. Why? Because they have not actually understood it. 4 types of knowing rightly. Of the 4 types, 3 is wrong and 1 is right. What are the 3 wrong knowings? The Vedas calls it as number 1, Purana Vairagya. Purana Vairagya means when you go to a motivational talk, everything looks good for. You go to a motivational, inspirational talk, so charged up, so motivated. In 2 days, it's gone. Back to square one. Now you can't go on, you can't keep going back to it again and again. Why? Because the 3rd time, the same motivational talk will look so dull. Oh no, this doesn't work. Because I have heard this enough, this doesn't work. I have heard this. What it's called as Purana Vairagya. It's a wrong way of knowing. It doesn't, transformation doesn't come about. First. The second one is Smashana Vairagya. Smashana Vairagya means death. That's the example that I gave. When the closest person is dead, suddenly everything becomes so hollow, so meaningless. And they really want to drop everything, go and do something else. And all that you have dropped 10 days later, the mind will want it back. It means it has not actually left anything. In that sorrow, it is making a wrong decision. In sorrow, you should not take a wrong decision. In sorrow, you should continue to do what you ought to do. That is called Titiks. In sorrow, in pain, continue to do what you ought to do. Why are we so negative and talking about sorrow so much? Sorrow, pain. Why are we so negative? Observe from your own life the longevity of pleasure and the longevity of pain. The longevity of pleasure and the longevity of pain. Observe what takes long time to go away. From your own life, you can find out. Some minimum self-introspection if you do, you will understand that. There is the longevity to pain, and then there is the longevity to pleasure. There is the longevity to sukham, and there is the longevity to dukkam. What will disappear fast? Sukham or dukkam? Sukham disappears very fast. Dukkam doesn't leave only, isn't it? Therefore, in Vedanta, we talk a lot about dukkam to understand it rightly so that you can never be in dukkam again. We talk about it so much, we explain it so much that you can never. Why? Because the longevity of sukham and dukkam. What is the longevity of sukham and what is the longevity of dukkam? You buy the car, 50% of the joy content is gone the next day. In fact, actually, the thought of buying the car is more joyful than the car. You know that? Have you ever observed it? The thought that you are going to have it is more joyful than, I always say this, the thought of going on a holiday is more joyful than an actual holiday. In everything in life, you observe it. How do we know that all this what we are supposed to do in introspection? All that this is what we are supposed to do in self-analysis, introspection. This is what we are supposed to. This is what we are supposed to do. Now, the thought of a house is more joyful than the actual house. In fact, it will appear to give much more joy when it is with somebody else's. If you go backwards, it is, and if somebody else has it, it appears to you that it can give you Much more joy, isn't it? You go to the restaurant and order food. You are waiting for your food. And you see the food that has come to the next table. What will taste more to you? Have you ever noticed it? It will always look that will be more tastier, and so both have come from the same. Both have some come from the same rotten kitchen only. Nothing. And then what is the longevity of pain and what is the longevity of pleasure? What is the longevity of sukham and what is the longevity of dukkham? We always experience the longevity of pain more. It just doesn't leave at all. Now the question is how to get out of it. How to get out of it. How to get out of it. There are 3 conventional methods which are very limited result, and then the 4th method is Titiks. There are 4 methods. There are 3 conventional methods. What are the 3 conventional methods? What the people do in the world, and whatsoever people do in the world, Vedanta has to call it as wrong. At least in Vedanta we have one standard formula. What? All that the world does is wrong. So obviously, in contrast, all that we say has to be perfect. No? In contrast, therefore, the way there is the sorrow, and the sorrow is because of wanting to make the impermanent permanent. Now, what do we do when you are in sorrow? First method is the solution method, remedial method. We want to find a solution. Remedial method. You want to find a solution. And most of the time the solutions are very expensive. Most of the time the solutions are very expensive. Physically, mentally, time-wise, energy-wise, tension, stress. With all this you bring a solution. And then we come to a great discovery. What? The solution that you have brought in itself becomes another problem. When the house is small, big house is a solution. When the house is big, small house is a solution. Now, if the mind simply move, not knowing, that's where in Vedanta, the fall of human intellect, there is a beautiful topic. In the book Fall of Human Intellect, there is a beautiful topic. In that he says, nobody knows what they want. Nobody knows what they want. There's a beautiful topic in that book. Nobody knows what they want. What is it that they don't know that they want? Somehow they want to make the temporary into permanent, and all efforts are made to keep the temporary as permanent. Even love, we want to keep the love permanent. The law says what? The person loving you today need not love you tomorrow. Don't say people are bad. Don't say people are wrong. That's the nature. To say the nature of the sun is to give heat, will you say bad sun? Will you say wrong sun? No. Similarly, the person loving you today need not love you tomorrow, because it changes. But the human mind wants to do one thing. What? Somehow keep it forever. Love me today, love me tomorrow, love me forever. And is there a thing like that existing? In our dreams it may exist, in the movies it may exist. That's why movie we say fairy tale ending, no? What is a fairy tale ending in a movie? I always say happily married ever after. They get married and the movie ends. Actual movie should start, but then nobody wants it. Why? Because they are already experiencing that. No. Why do they want to go and see it in a movie? Therefore, the sorrow is because of what? Somehow trying to make the impermanent permanent. So first method that we find is a solution method, remedial method, solution approach. Sometimes the solution approach doesn't. There are some situations where there is no solution, we go on putting up with it. We go on tolerating. We go on tolerating suppression. Why? Because Not knowing what else to do, we go on suppressing. You may opt to suppress the suffering in silence for years after years after years. Very soon you will end up victimizing yourself, self-whipping. So one method is solution method. Another method is what? People try suppression. And suppression does a lot of psychological damage. Because you end up whipping yourself. Therefore, that also doesn't solve the problem. So there is no... So freedom from sorrow doesn't come from solution approach. Freedom from sorrow doesn't come from the suppression approach. What is the third approach that people do in the world, that people try in the world, and all this doesn't work?
Retail therapy.
Retail therapy.
Solution.
Huh? Accepting.
Accusing.
The third method is the explosion approach. Explosion approach. So first approach is solution. Second approach is suppression. The third approach is explosion. All this is tried in various combinations. All these three will be tried in various permutations and combinations. Because basically all these three are flawed by nature, all permutation combination that arises out of it will be flawed only because it will not give you freedom from sorrow. In fact, all these three methods you try, you built in an expectation. What is the expectation that you built? It should solve the problem. It should solve the problem. It should solve the problem. What is the problem? The problem of sorrow. It should solve the problem of sorrow. And then you come back into understanding. What? It doesn't. It has not solved. Krishna comes in, Vedanta comes in with the fourth method. That fourth method is Titiksha. What is Titiksha? First definition of Titiksha is, what did they say?
Despite of the pain, still do what you ought.
Correct. Continuing to do what you ought to do in spite of the pain is the first meaning of Titiksha. Now the second meaning of the Titiksha. Pain is purely a subjective phenomena. Sukham and Dukkham, pleasure and pain is a subjective phenomena. Heat and cold is an objective phenomena. Pleasure and pain is a subjective phenomena. Are you able to understand the difference? Again I repeat. Heat and cold is an objective phenomena. Nobody will go and embrace the fire and say, I like to have we all will want to have a shower in water only. Will anybody come and say, I will want to have a shower in fire? Why? It is an objective phenomena. Heat and cold is an objective phenomena. Pleasure and pain is a subjective phenomena. And through knowledge and understanding, we can keep the experience of sorrow under the threshold. Everybody has a threshold of patience, forbearance. Through knowledge and understanding, you go on increasing your tolerance. Through knowledge and understanding, you go on increasing your forbearance, tolerance. Therefore, what happens? Whatsoever the difficult situation that you will be facing in, it will be under your elastic limit. That is Titiksha. So Titiksha means elastic limits. Elastic limit. You know, a band has an elastic limit. Everything you can, some can be stretched this much, some can be stretched this much, some can be stretched this much. And who's a wise one? You stretch and stretch and stretch. The person turns back and say, you can't make me unhappy. You can stretch how much ever you want. You can't make me unhappy. Now, what is it that can stretch you? Your body can stretch you. The environment can stretch you. the people around you can stretch you. What are all the things that can stretch you? First thing that can stretch you is your body. The first environment that you have is your body. It can stretch you. How it can stretch you? This is one form of body trying to tell me, no? I put one band and I put one wristband, I come and sit. Then I sit, and then the wristband alone is not enough. Now this I have to put. Now in 2 months later, this also will not be enough. Something else I have to do. Now where it will end? Where it will end? It will not end. Therefore, what is the other method now? All this I keep within my threshold. So instead of dealing with this, I deal with increasing my threshold. Instead of trying to deal with this, as I am dealing with this, I deal with my threshold. Now, primarily, you should make an effort to increase the threshold and then come to change the situation. Don't try to change the situation first and then change yourself. It's common sense knowledge. What is the common sense knowledge? All of us have a responsibility to work on improving the situation. We don't want to work on bettering a situation because of our intolerance. That's what we are saying. We want to change the situation. We want to better a situation, not because I'm not able to cope with it, not because I'm not able to tolerate it. But all human attempts comes from where? I can't cope up with it, I can't tolerate it, therefore it has to be changed. Therefore it has to be changed. You can withstand, in Indian context we say, you can accept, you can withstand with a castor oil face. I don't know how do you say that here. Have you ever tasted castor oil, pure castor oil? You can put up with situation with a castor oil face. What else you do? Just calm. Another way is what? Another way is cheerful. Therefore, Titiksha is explained as cheerfully putting up with castor oil face. You have castor oil and be cheerful. All of you would have heard this definition. Titiksha means putting up with inconveniences cheerfully. But then there is a derivation to it. Isn't it? Titiksha means putting up with inconveniences cheerfully, happily. But then there is a derivation to it. How do you derive? Now you can't simply say accept. And you tell somebody accept, that's the most irritating advice for them. They say, don't give me this advice, accept. Give me a solution. Vedanta comes up with the solution. What is the solution? What is the solution? Life equals situations, and the situations will be castor oil face. All that you can do is what? Cheerfully you can take it, or crying you can take it. But you can't avoid
The situation.
You cannot avoid. That cannot be avoided at all. Therefore, practice Titiksha. Agama payano nityaha tam titikshasva bharata. Arjuna, practice is Titiksha. What does practicing Titiksha means? The first environment that you have difficulty from is your body. The second environment that you have difficulty is from the people around. The first problem comes from your body. The second problem comes from the environment. The third problem comes from the cosmos. That's why all Vedantic prayers will conclude by Shanti, Three Shantis. Why? Because a recognition of all these three will. Everybody follow? That's why we say Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Titiksha. It's you can't run away from it. So what you can't run away from, we don't say put up with it with a castor oil face. Understand it rightly. What is understanding it rightly? The pain is the pleasure or pain is a subjective phenomena, not inherent in heat and cold, the situation, the person. Again, heat and pleasure and pain is a subjective phenomena, not because of the heat and cold, not because of the person, not because of the situation. Therefore, I conclude with these two examples that we use very often. Cigarette being the same source of pleasure to one and pain to another. The person being the same, one person is ready to do anything to be with this person. Another person is ready to do anything to get rid of the person. Person being the same, object being the same, source, one gives happiness, another gives sorrow. It means it's not in the person, it's not in the person, it's not in the object, it's not in the situation, it is a subjective phenomena. Subjective phenomena means how ignorant or how wise are you. Subjective phenomena means how ignorant are you of this fact or how wise are you regarding this fact. Arjuna, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, what are you crying about? You are crying about these people going to die. No. They will die, you will die, I will die. Is that the reason for us to run away from what we ought to do? Is that the reason for us to run away from what we ought to do? Is pain a reason for us to run away from what we ought to do? Is misery, is suffering, pain a reason for us to run away from what we ought to do? You can run away, but then where can you run? The next one that will be waiting will give you
More pain.
more pain. That's why in India we say, in Vedic culture we say, don't divorce. Divorce. No, why try this divorces and all? Simply because the next one is going to give more pain. Statistically, they say no, the first marriage will last for this many years, the second marriage will last for much shorter time. Third marriage, much shorter. Fourth time, they say, no, you live your way, I live my way. Titiksha is not putting up with inconveniences. Titiksha is increasing your threshold. You go on increasing your threshold. When you go on increasing, it is like as you go on building up a strong immunity. As you go on building up a strong immunity, it can be handled much better. Maybe what can be disastrous to the others, because of your strong immunity, you may escape with a cold cough. But sir, the cold and cough, can it be avoided? What is the answer? If I build a strong immunity, can I permanently avoid cold and cough? I am trying to be fit and exercise and trying to be fit, etc. Sir, can diseases be avoided? No. You exercise, you continue to exercise, knowing fully well that you will still get diseased. Then the mind will ask, anyway, if I am going to get diseased, why? Why exercise? Then why do the right thing? That choice you don't have. You have to do that which you ought to do. You have to do that which you ought to do. This is the topic, Titiksha. One of the preliminary qualities that is required for spiritual growth. In a very, in relation to the physical body, it will be called as tolerance. In relation to the mind, it will be called as acceptance. In relation to the physical body, it will be called tolerance. You tolerate. Cold plunge. I didn't go for this cold plunge today. Did anybody go?
There was none.
There was no work. Good, very good. Thank God. So, in cold plunge, what are you trying? You are only increase. So, at the physical level, it is called tolerance. At the mental level, it is called acceptance. So, titiksha equals tolerance plus acceptance.
And at the cosmic level?
At the cosmic level, surrender.
Surrender.
Surrender. The cosmic level, surrender. So, titiksha equals tolerance plus acceptance, surrender. Tolerance at the physical level, because at the sensory level you have to tolerate. Mentally you should never say I tolerate. Mentally you should say I accept. Religious tolerance. So what is this word religious tolerance? Who am I to say I am tolerating somebody? I can only say I understand. Are you able to follow? So tolerance is always used at the sensory level, physical level. At the mental level, it is always used as acceptance. At the cosmic level, surrender. This is practicing Titiksha. With this, we conclude and we meet up for the Q&A session at 11:30.
Thank you.